Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Chiefs Digest Live Q&A with myself, Matt Derrick. Our good friend Nick Jacobs will be joining us a little later. Trying to think if there's I'm very interested tonight in the tenor of the conversation. I'm interested to see what the questions will be like after a couple of wins for the Chiefs. It's not like they haven't won games in a while, but to win a game the way that they did against the Ravens in that fashion, I'm just kind of interested to see where everybody's mindset's at and how everybody is feeling tonight. So I'm looking forward to this. I expect that there will be some Tyreek Hill questions. Man, in fact, I already see Chris has already lined that one up. So we'll talk about that too. Anything that's on your mind in Chiefs Kingdom, also I'll answer just about anything. I might not make Nick don't answer anything. I'll try and take one for the team. So I'll answer almost anything. You can ask me anything, I suppose. I don't always have to answer, but I try to always give an answer. I don't think I have much of a monologue tonight. That was a pretty convincing win for the Chiefs. We will expect to see some decisions Wednesday as far as if Najee Johnson and tight end Jake Brainingstool are ready to return. I certainly get the indication that Najee is healthy and ready to go. Just be simply if the Chiefs want to open up the practice window for him or Brainingstool. Remember, they've already designated him to return, so it's just a matter of opening up their 21-day practice window. That can happen starting this week. So Wednesday would be the day that we'd expect something to happen on that front. So it's one thing to watch for on Wednesday. They don't necessarily have to make the roster move until they're ready to put them onto the 53-player roster. So there could be some time to go. Although, like I said, I get the indication that Najee is healthy and ready to play at this point. If the Chiefs are ready, it's just going to be how much rust do they want him to knock off? How much time does he need to hit the ground and kind of get going after being out for more than a month? So let's see what happens there. Brian, not only hitting the like button, encouraging everyone to do that, which I always appreciate, but reset the play clock to 45 seconds. I'm going to try and I will try and do lightning round. I know Nick is going to come in and question my spirit and, and my intentions of doing lightning round. So we'll see what happens, but I have every intention of going no huddle, going full speed, going turbo tonight. So I'm trying to get through as many questions as we can and get everybody home and on to whatever you want to do next in a reasonable time matter. That's what we're going for here. I'm all of a sudden I'm like Major League Baseball to pitch clock. Luttrell. Oh, and I skipped Chris's question. Went straight to Luttrell's. Is the offense fixed or is the Ravens defense just that stinky? My take on it is both. That's obviously been the question I've been asked more than anything else this week. Is the Chiefs offense fixed or Ravens bad? I think it's both, and we still will need to wait. We're not going to find out maybe until week 7 or 8, depending on when Rashee Rice gets back onto the field and how the Chiefs function in that environment. So I'm not completely ready to just say that the Chiefs offense is fixed, but we'll see. That was a big step forward against the Ravens. That absolutely was. So I think, like I said, I think it's a little bit of both. Getting Xavier Worthy back as a speed element to this offense that they just lacked. He's prolific. There's a lot of things that he can do. He's very Tyreek Hill like. So that's why let's face it, he's got a long way before you can put him in the category of a Tyreek Hill, but he has got that potential. And obviously his numbers as a rookie were comparable to Tyreek's as well. I don't think he's got the high end speed that Tyreek does, but his skill set, it's in the ballpark. And I'm really intrigued to see what Xavier can do fully healthy the rest of the year. Even when it looked like he was talking about being maybe tired and rusty going into that game, didn't seem to show a lot of rust. He might have been tired, but he didn't show it. So I think it's a little bit of both. Baltimore, there's no doubt they are banged up. I don't know if they're a playoff team. I really don't. And I'm not sure that any other teams have the coaching and the personnel to do what Steve Spagnuolo did to them, but every team in the league is going to try it. So we'll see what happens to them offensively the rest of the way. But That was a pretty good effort from the Chiefs. From Chris, I guess I should say this for Nick too. So Chris, you don't mind? I am going to just tag that one and bring you in later when Nick gets here, which hopefully will not be too long. So, Dog Better, is there any update on Christian Wilkins? What I was mostly hearing was with Wilkins was that it might be mid-season, like week 8, 9. Before he was healthy enough to play. That could change things. Would the Chiefs be interested? Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, Dog Better. Once again, I mean, it circles back to if the Chiefs have any interest in upgrading the pass rush, running back, defensive tackle, anything like that, they're going to need some more money because they don't have a ton of it. So they've got some work to do if they want to update those spots. But Wilkins, I think that's still a decision a little bit more down the road. It might be a few more weeks. I could be surprised. Maybe he's going to jump and make a decision here pretty quickly. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% certain either way if the Chiefs would be interested or not. Medicals are going to be a huge part of it. So it's going to be, how does that foot look? Does he look ready to play? Does a team, including the Chiefs, feel like that he can be himself out there? I think the Chiefs are also a little gun shy from some of their past acquisitions in midseason about their ability to just drop into the offense and be plug and play. Wilkins might be a little bit different in that, you feel like you can get something out of him, but that's the thing, is that if Christian Wilkins thinks that he's a $15 million player, Chiefs aren't going to be paying that much money. So it would have to be a very affordable deal. And honestly, it might even have to be a little bit bargain rate. I mean, that it might be one of those cases that Wilkins, if he wants to come to Kansas City, would have to be for less money than some other places. Because the Chiefs, one, they don't have a ton of money, and two, like I said, I think that they have, kind of altered standards about what their expectation would be, and expectations would be a better answer than description of that than anything else. They just have, I think, different expectations about what midseason acquisitions can contribute to a team. Joshua Uche's situation last year was a good example. They just felt like he never really picked up the defense. And that would be the same with any defensive line addition, being able to pick up what Spags is doing. It's hard to do. So we'll see what happens there. But that's it. Like I said, I think it'll still be a few more weeks before there's any movement on the Christian Wilkins front. And Doc Petter, thank you once again for the super chat. I don't think I thanked you for that when I went to it. And thank you to Scott as well for the super chat. Super chat moves you to the front of the line. So there you go. Did you see the defensive ends make some progress? I thought it was one very notable that the Chiefs did start Ashton Gelati against the Ravens on Sunday. I think that's an indication that the Chiefs at least are seeing some progress from Gelati. And it's probably a little bit of, they're not seeing the progress that they want from Charles Omenihu. Charles, some of his numbers are, especially the more advanced metrics, some of them are not what they used to be. So I think that's a concern for the Chiefs. So that's one reason why, again, that they might be looking for some reinforcements on the front, in the defensive front. They haven't been able to get the pressure entirely that they want, especially with 4. They've had to blitz a lot. It's worked. They're making it work. But I think Steve Spagnuolo and Joel Cohen would love to be able to get some pressure with 4 on occasion without having to bring a 5th and a 6th pass rusher, sometimes 7 pass rushers. So, I mean, I always say it's really tough in season for players to make progress. Usually you're going to make your progress during the season. Getting better it can certainly happen. And when you're talking about getting better, you're usually talking about getting better as a team and the chemistry and all of those things. It's, rookies can make big progress. So that's why I think that if you're banking on the Chiefs defensive line being better at the end of the season than it is right now, it's guys like Gelati that you're hoping can take the step forward. We'd love to get Mike Dana back. And then if Dana comes back, that obviously helps this Chiefs defensive front a little bit, but I don't think there's any doubt that, right now, I mean, they're telling us that their best 2 defensive ends are George Karlaftis and Ashton Gelati. So let's see what happens there. And I want to point out Karlaftis, because I thought he had a great game on Sunday. One of his best games, sack, had 4 or 5 quarterback hits, some hurries. Statistically, a really good game for Karlaftis, and they need more of that. So let's see what happens. Scott, thank you very much for the super chat there. And let's see where we are going next. I'll go to your other question, Chris. Do the media folks and coaches ever have off the record BS sessions throwing around football plays and where players fit in the scheme, etc.? Nah. Well, at least in my experience, Chris, never really. I mean, I don't remember ever talking about anybody with plays. Now there might be some that I'm just forgetting, and other reporters might be having different conversations. And it's really, and I'm thinking right now, I know like Peter King had conversation with Andy Reid in his office where Andy Reid was, I think, drawing up a hot dog, corn dog. Oh my gosh. You can tell the brain fog's kicking in tonight early. So, and if you get this chance to sit down with a player or a coach, you get a little bit more. Most of our conversations, unfortunately, with coaches and players are standing around. At the Super Bowl, you do get to sit down with them a little bit more, but it's challenging. But do you have off the record conversations with players that will be just about some random things? Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have some of those conversations just to kind of get an understanding. Especially, like a great example was, when Butker was having the issues with Tommy Townsend when he first got here, and they were having the issues with the hold and the big questions about whether it was the hold or the kicks and going back and forth. And obviously Dustin Colquitt, got involved in that conversation too and everything. But, players around, they don't necessarily ever want to, you're never in this organization, at least, you're almost never going to get a player who's going to throw another player under the bus. Doesn't happen around the league very often either, unless teams are losing and they're struggling, in which case that's going to happen. And even off the record, players won't do it. But if they know that it's not going to be quoted and explained and put their names through and everything like that, they'll oftentimes be willing to go more in depth to at least help you understand it. And that's always my approach is with players. When there's questions like that, I'm like, I just try to say, look, I'm not looking for a story here. I'm not trying to get a quote next to your name. I'm not looking for that. I just want help me understand it. What's the issue here with the problem that you're having? And that you do. I mean, and sometimes it means that, hey, will they sometimes tell me something that I can't tell you at the time because it's not on the record? Sure. But do they sometimes explain things so that now I can understand and say, hey, you know what? This isn't the problem. This is not the issue. So you can sometimes read between the lines a little bit on some of the things that people talk about, reporters talk about and everything. Sometimes what we report and what we don't report are telling. And, it's the way, unfortunately, journalism and the world works. I mean, there's sometimes that you get told things that you just can't, go into details on as much as you would like to, because you've been told that in confidence. And it's important as journalists that you maintain that trust and that confidence that you get from your sources, and in this case, players and coaches. So by having that, it means that there's a lot of other things that I can tell you. So this is definitely not a lightning round answer, but yes, Chris. I mean, I guess that's my short answer is that, yeah, you do have. And these conversations probably are different from every reporter to another, different from a player to another. I know there's some players who are comfortable talking about certain subjects and some are not. So it varies with every conversation. And even in position groups, there's conversations that you can have with one player that you're probably not going to have with another. So it does happen. And like I said, I mean, if that's my one lesson for you as readers and listeners and viewers, like I said, sometimes the things that aren't reported might be just as meaningful as the things that are reported. Nikki, was Worthy wearing a brace on his shoulder? Because it didn't look like he was. Yes, he absolutely was. He told us after the game on Sunday that he was wearing a brace. He was wearing a brace during practice during the week too. And I can tell you, at least from being up close to him during practice and seeing him after the game as well, we often talk about like spiders that the players wear, which are basically they're not shoulder pads. They're not the heavy pads that you think of when we're talking about the players being in pads. But there's these really thin layers that are just like, not even like probably that thick. I mean, they're not very thick at all. And that's basically what the shoulder brace is. The ones that I've seen the players wear when they have an injury like Xavier does is, it's kind of like a shoulder pad shape that goes over both shoulders, and then it's just got, it's got a stiff padding in there that at least like limits the movement, so that he's at least got and in his case, I mean, it may be he can do this. It doesn't mean he can't lift his like hands above his head. It's just like how far the shoulder can go. So he's not going to be doing that, but it just limits the mobility, as to make sure that he doesn't stretch that shoulder out too far. And it's not doesn't look, I mean, it's not like super rigid either, but yeah, it's a really thin brace. And I mean, you can even search for them, like you go on Amazon and search for a shoulder brace. You can see how just thin they are. And they also don't have very long sleeves, I guess what you would call it, because the one that Xavier had, I mean, it really cut off just above the sleeve of his jersey. So they're really short. They don't go too far down the arm. So it's probably intentional, because there's probably some players who would like to be able to wear a shoulder brace without letting the whole world know that they have a shoulder brace on. You don't, the design saying things so players can sometimes hide injuries, and this is, I think, probably a good example of that. Let's see. Jackson, Noah Williams reminds me of Gear 3 Snead. Is this a fair comparison? I'm going to say too early to call on that one, Jackson, because I mean, he's still not. I mean, this hasn't been a big workload yet for Noah Williams. Has it been impressive what he has been able to do at this point? Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm really impressed with what he has been able to do in limited play so far. And obviously, I know Pro Football Focus, their graders, really love him. I get the sense that, once again, this goes back to what Steve Spagnuolo talked about a week or two ago, that it's hard to grade players when you don't know what their duties and responsibilities were. So hey, whatever the grades you see on PFF, they do their best. And I always say, at least if you're comparing data on PFF to itself, then at least you're doing an apples to apples comparison. But I'm just going to tap the brakes on any comparisons to L'Jarius Sneed yet, because dude's only played, I think, 47 defensive snaps and probably about half as many dropbacks. Maybe a little bit more than that. It's probably around 30 dropbacks, I would be guessing. So it's a really small sample size. Give him some time. I mean, are the Chiefs excited with what they've got? Yeah, I mean, they love the progress that he's made. And I think he's going to get more and more opportunities. They're going to protect him a little bit. They're going to put him in situations where they think that he has the biggest chance of success. That's what they're doing with a lot of their rookies right now. If your name is not Josh Simmons, they're kind of, and a little bit if your name is Ashton Gelati and Omar Norman Lott. Those are probably the three guys that they're leaning on the most. Simmons, obviously, far and above anybody else. Everybody else is protecting in some ways, at least limiting their snaps and their development a little bit, just because they don't want it. Like you said, Andy Reid's mantra, if I can choose the right word there, pronounce it correctly, is to, let guys, put them in the best positions to best succeed. And so that's what they're doing with guys like Noah Williams right now, putting him in chances and positions where they think like he's got the chance to make plays. And so if instead of 47 snaps through these first 4 games, he played 47 snaps a game, you might have more reservations. But I'd be ecstatic with what you're getting from him so far. The coaching has been on point. He's obviously been, taken well to the coaching. So I'd be excited, but I'm going to tap the brakes a little bit before I start making any L'Jarius Sneed comparisons or anything. But I get where you're coming from. Alex, does the media realize our defense dismantled the Ravens offense? That's something I think you got a fair point on making there, Alex, is that that Ravens offense was high-powered coming into this game. And you're right, Steve Spagnuolo dismantled it. They absolutely took it apart. They've always had success against Lamar Jackson, never really this much success. I was just really surprised again that the Ravens got so far out of their game plan so quickly. The fact that they got away from using Derrick Henry, that just made no sense to me whatsoever. And when they didn't have him out there on the 4th and 1, I don't know if it was that he was hurt. I don't know if it's that the fumbles the last few weeks have them concerned. Combination of both of those things. But I thought that the Ravens gave up on the run game way too quick. Now, granted, the touches that Henry had early, he had one great run, and then the rest of it, the Chiefs did kind of dismantle. So maybe that was more of the case that Harbaugh and the coaching staff on the Baltimore side just knew and saw what was coming from Spags, and they're like, okay, we need to adjust because the run game's not going to work today. I don't know, but the Chiefs got the Ravens out of their game plan and did it quickly and did what they wanted to do and dictated terms. So I'm going to be really interested to see. I think I told Ryan and Chris this on Locked On Chiefs earlier today. I'll be interested to see going forward because other teams are going to try and go to school on what Steve Spagnuolo did, and we'll just see if they've got the coaching and the personnel to do what the Chiefs did. But I think that was really an overlooked, impressive part, Alex. I think you're absolutely right. And Jackson, who do you think the Chiefs aren't getting more credit for shutting down on elite offense? Or why do you think the Chiefs aren't getting more credit? It's a good question. I think that I feel like they get a fair amount of credit. Maybe it's not as much as they deserve. And Spags certainly, I think, deserves more credit. It seems like it's been more credit locally than maybe nationally. And I think once again, I mean, Chiefs defense is always going to get overlooked by the offense and overshadowed by the offense. So there's always going to be more hype. And the fact that the Chiefs offense played as well as it did was the bigger story, especially because the Chiefs offense had been struggling for so long, and going out and doing what they did to the Ravens, even if it was a dinged up Ravens defense, I get why that's a bigger story. It's probably one of those things, Jackson, that if the Chiefs, if they keep it up, you see this for a few more games. And especially, hey, if somebody comes to town like the Lions and they just dismantle the Lions offense in front of a big crowd on a nationally televised game, then you're going to start getting more stories like that. So, and I do think that there's a little bit to it that Spags does not get enough credit for this defense and what they've been able to do. Nikki, I love that. Still looking for a t-shirt. Spags gets coaches fired and quarterbacks retired. Tell you what, Spags may have ended Russell Wilson's career. No thing but Lamar Jackson, but there's definitely going to be some fallout of some games this year that after the Chiefs get done with you. Jackson, has George Karlaftis taken a leap? He's one of the top pressure leaders. This was the discussion during the offseason, was whether or not George could do that in his 4th year. And, and that's not uncommon. We've always talked traditionally about, you always expect players to take a big leap from year 1 to year 2. There's always, then as Tyrann Mathieu once told us and told me, it's like some guys, it doesn't kick in until year 3. But there's certain positions that you really don't find your groove until maybe year 4, and edge rusher is one of those. If you look around at some of the best edge rushers in the league, and hey, there's different ones. There are some guys who come in and are elite immediately, but there's some guys who are even really good that don't become elite, and don't become elite until like year 4. Trey Hendrickson's one of those guys. Daniel Hunter was one of those guys. As good as Max Crosby was, Max Crosby didn't really hit his prime until year 4. I think you are seeing it with Karlaftis. And, is it taking a leap, or is it just, finally fine-tuning a few things, maybe just finding his groove, going up against the guys year after year and really knowing what they do so you can play, take advantage of that knowledge. It's probably a lot of different things that go into it, but it's just not uncommon for a lot of guys in year 4 to do it. And Karlaftis is coming, he's kind of doing it right on schedule. So we'll see if he can maintain it, but it's been a really good start to the first quarter of the season for Karlaftis, on pace for double digits in sacks. He could be right now, looks like one of the top leaders in the league as far as edge rushers go. And after he got his contract extension this year, there was a lot of national talk that kind of basically had him as one of the top 15 guys in the league. So he's, I think, at this point, really starting to live up to expectations in his draft position for sure. Let's see where we got next. Sharon, any insight into Breece Hall? His post-game presser suggested that he'd be open to the trades. No idea if the Jets are. I mean, this comes back again, Sharon, as to, and I'll bring in Perry's question right after you too about this. Who would you all trade the pick for between Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, and Alvin Kamara? Number one is going to be, can you afford the player? And, Breece Hall, good example, affordable contract wise, probably not affordable draft pick wise, because if Breece Hall's in the last year of a rookie deal, so I think that the Jets, once they feel like that they are out of playoff contention, which could be sooner than later, but most teams, even at this point, most teams around the league still don't feel like that they're out of playoff contention. Everybody's going to feel like they still have a chance, that they feel like they've built a team that can win. So, I mean, unless they have just really, lost, some key players, everybody still feels like they have a chance. So it's going to be a couple more weeks until some teams start dropping off. Jets probably in that category too. So Breece Hall is an example. I mean, if a guy in his last year of his rookie contract, or even like the third year of his rookie contract, another year to go, those guys, they're not going to probably go for, a fourth or a fifth round pick. Breece Hall probably could get the Jets at the bare minimum a third round comp pick next year. So they're not going to settle for anything less than that. So they went more than that to get him. If the Chiefs want to trade for a running back, I mean, like I said, it's going to have to somebody who does not make a ton of money. So I would say, I even think $3 million is on the high end. I think the Chiefs would prefer that someone make maybe 1.5, half that money. So it needs to be somebody financially affordable. Breece Hall, financially affordable. Draft pick compensation, not affordable, because the Chiefs aren't going to give up that much. Javonte Williams is interesting, because that's a guy that I honestly thought the Chiefs should have been interested in over Elijah Mitchell. That's who if I given the choice between those two in the offseason as a free agent, that's who I would have signed, was Javonte Williams. Now, is he going to become available? Probably, maybe not at all. I mean, he's on a team that's playing pretty well right now, so I don't know that he's going to become available at all. Alvin Kamara fits in the category, unfortunately, of is he financially affordable? No, there's almost zero way that you make Alvin Kamara financially affordable. Would he fit into the Chiefs offense and be able to do some things? Sure. He'd blow the doors off some things. But with his contract, his cost, there's virtually zero way for the Chiefs to be able to squeeze him under the salary cap. And that's even before you then talk about draft pick compensation. Even if the Saints were willing to give him away, which I don't think that they are, I think that was probably a too costly contract wise and draft pick wise. But Javonte Williams, I think you're in the ballpark. Going to Perry's question there, I think that's at least the kind of player. I don't know if Williams himself is somebody who would be available, but somebody like that, somebody who's productive, got a little juice, making less than $2 million a year, and it's probably a good number. I mean, you could go to $3 million once you get to the trade deadline, because then you're talking about maybe only picking up a prorated salary of $1.5 million. But you're not going to be picking up like a $12 million running back. Just don't have the room for that one. Casey Harold, was it confirmed that Tyreek Hill tore his ACL? As it was once told to me that if certain reporters report it, you can bet that it's true. So hey, when the Adam Schefters and the Ian Rappaports of the world are saying that he tore his ACL among other things in that knee, then I think you can pretty much take it that it's confirmed. And the fact that they're great, the reports I've seen have said other ligaments as well. And you saw the injury. Yeah, there's probably zero doubt that he tore a few other things in there as well. So it's not just the ACL. That's what would make me concerned, that when they're talking about how it may cost him the 2026 season as well, it's more than the ACL. That the ACL alone would not cost him 2026. But when you're talking about the other damage in that knee that looks like he's got, that's the problem. The nombre, can the Chiefs keep giving Rashard Smith the ball? Welcome. You're on the bus. We got you. I'm on that bus. Nick's been driving that bus for a while too. We've been on Team Rashard for a while. There's a few of you who have been on there with us. I still think it's a couple of things with Rashard Smith. I mean, and the biggest thing is that 1 year as a running back in college, so he's still not a polished running back. He's a work in progress. Chiefs just don't want to put him into a situation until he's ready to succeed. So I think they want to limit his opportunities. They want to limit his opportunities to the packages and the plays that he's most comfortable with, that they feel like he's got down. He's still working on, I think, the speed, being able to, be patient, waiting for holes to develop and waiting for his blocks to develop. That's on a different level than it was in college, where, in college to a certain degree, you can just hit the hole and run. Not entirely as what they want you to do in the NFL. They want you to wait for your hole to develop, and you've got to do that in order to beat NFL defenders. I mean, you got to do everything right. And but I think, hey, I still think Rashard Smith is the most explosive running back on this team. Give him a few more weeks. I think you're going to see more and more plays for him. They're going to obviously continue to work him into the passing game. It still might be until mid-season that you really start to see him maybe getting a big chunk of plays, but I think you're going to continue to see his snap counts go up week by week as long as there's no mistakes. And I think that's good for the Chiefs because this guy's got some game-breaking ability. I don't want to make it out to be like he's Adrian Peterson or something, but he's got some juice, and I want to see more of it. Jedi, not sure if this has been asked, but how much do you think it was Ravens injury versus Chiefs improvement? Like I said at the very start, Jedi, I think it was a little bit of both. There's no doubt Ravens are dinged up, but the Chiefs are getting better. And Patrick Mahomes and the offensive line in particular. This was Patrick's, I think, best game in like 3 years. So I mean that there have been games where he's just put the team on his back and dragged them somewhere. But I mean, his numbers were not great necessarily in those games. And he's had some games where it's like Patrick threw for 170 yards, but he was the best player on the field. He was still the best player on the field, obviously, against the Ravens, but he did what he wanted. And, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He hasn't done that in, like I said, literally almost 3 years. This was classic Patrick Mahomes. And it's a guy that we haven't seen in a while. So I thought it was an incredible performance. And so, yeah, Chiefs improvement too, but that's why you want to see more going forward and see if there's anything that, this team can continue to build upon. And like I said, it wasn't entirely just taking advantage of the Ravens and their issues, but Chiefs played really, really well too. And if they can keep that going, they're going to be able to do that against some teams that are not dinged up. Dominic, does Najee get elevated soon, and how might that affect Joshua Williams' roster spot? I mean, you've asked, I think, the $1 million question there, Dominic, which is once Nazee's ready to return, and like I mentioned earlier, my impression is that Nazee's health-wise is ready to go. How long they want that practice window open for him to just knock the rust off before he's ready, we'll see. But Josh Williams is the guy that, I think that would affect the fact. I mean, that's the guy that I think is next on the bubble. And his spot would be the one that Najee might potentially take. Now, other things could happen. There could be injuries elsewhere. Then you're like, okay, the Chiefs can put this guy on injured reserve. And then, Najee takes his spot. So maybe you're going with one fewer tight ends, or, you're going with one less linebacker. I mean, and I'm not saying there's any injuries there that I don't know about. I'm just using those as examples. But because if you look at just the defensive secondary, you would absolutely say that, hey, when Najee comes back, who would he replace? It's probably Josh Williams, because he's the guy that's not playing right now. So Yeah, that's where I think it would be, and that's another area where if the Chiefs wanted to make a trade, I think Josh Williams would have some value some places. It's not that he hasn't been a bad player in Kansas City. It's just that he hasn't had the success here of late that the Chiefs wanted. Maybe he would fit in better with another defensive scheme. So to help him find a new home, maybe the Chiefs can get something in return. Maybe they get a player that they really want or a draft pick that they need. You name it. But I think you're right, Dominic. I mean, that's the unless there's a shift or an injury of some sort, that's the player who I think could be most affected by Nazee's return. Bumpa. Are the Chiefs expecting a ramp up when Rashee returns or a full workload first game back? Are they worried at all about the ACL tear? If fully healthy and in shape, he can get 1,000 yards in 11 games. That was one of my hot takes, Bump. I said that I think absolutely. I think Rice can get to 1,000 yards before the end of the season. That was my one of my hot takes, and I'll still stand by it. It's a legitimate question. It hasn't really been addressed yet because it's still down the road. Obviously, Rice just got back in the building last week, so he's just coming back to kind of knock off the rust at this point. Can't practice with the team yet until the suspension is actually up, but at least he can be back in the building, so he's not out on the field. He's just in the building. He can work out, be in meetings, all that kind of thing. So I mean, I would expect that he would be active his first game back. I would doubt that they're going to put him out there for 60 snaps. Now, then again, they gave a lot of snaps to Xavier Worthy this past weekend, a lot more than I thought they would. And I think a little bit more than Xavier thought that they might, because he mentioned in his post-game press conference that he was a little worn out. So and you're right. I mean, with the ACL, I think they would want to, keep him held back a little bit. But I think he will play immediately, and when he comes back in week 7, I think he'll play. Might not be every snap, might not be a full workload. I think they would take some time to ramp him up. But you're right. I mean, that's a guy that can average 100 yards a game. I don't think that's exactly what the Chiefs think of him. And so, yeah, no, I think he can absolutely do that. But I do believe it would probably be maybe 2 to 4 weeks before they have him up to the full workload, and unless he feels comfortable more quickly than that. Brian, why would a top shelf running back want to play here with Andy's lack of carries to go around? It would be bad for their career. Brashard Smith, all the Chiefs need. I mean, it's been hit and miss with running backs coming into Kansas City. I mean, there have been times, obviously, that veterans who have come in here have not gotten the playing time that they want. Now, that said, I don't think any top shelf running back has ever come in here. I mean, most of the guys like LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell, they were post their peaks. So they were not what I would call top shelf running backs coming in here. A top shelf running back would probably get as many touches as they need to, especially somebody who can catch the ball out of the backfield. But again, I mean, if you're a top shelf running back, chances are Chiefs can't afford the 2 costs. Can't afford the draft pick, or they can't afford the contract. Maybe both. So, Flynn, what is the likelihood of Broderick Martin being elevated for good? A little bit more time. He didn't get any snaps because he was elevated on Sunday, for Sunday's game, rather, on Saturday, just for the Chris Jones emergency. He was not active. So I think you would be looking for at least another game or two where he does get elevated and does play, to get to see some action before you put him on the 53. The only thing that would change from that is if somebody around the league comes along and needs defensive tackle help and is looking at Broderick Martin. If the Chiefs feel that important with him, that would bump him up to protect him. But he's a guy who's bounced around a little bit, so I don't know if that would necessarily be the case. Everybody in the league had a chance to claim him at the beginning of the season if they, off waivers if they wanted to. So hey, injuries change things, so that absolutely could happen. But I think they would want, the Chiefs would want to get him elevated a couple of times just to see what they've got and get him actually some snaps before they put him onto the 53 officially. So I think we're a little ways from that. Darren, what practice squad players are practicing well that will be called up on Sundays if need arises? Really hard for me to answer since, we don't get to see much of practice. Don't get to really see the practice squad players play much at all. I do know, I heard really good things about Jimmy Hollywood, or Holiday rather, the wide receiver, that he's continued to play pretty well. Teammates talking about him. But yeah, I because they just don't let us watch enough of the practices to anything more than stretch to make any evaluations. It's really hard to say, Darren. I wish I had more of an impression of those guys. But Bill, can the Chiefs trade Jawaan Taylor for an offensive weapon? Here's where I'm a little bit on an island. I don't see the possibility there. I don't see the Chiefs interested, and I don't see another team interested. If think about it this way, Chiefs fans have an opinion of Jawaan Taylor. Chances are that the collective opinion of Chiefs fans isn't necessarily a whole lot different than the Chiefs' opinion of Jawaan Taylor, and maybe not even the opinion of Jawaan Taylor around the league. So if Chiefs fans want to get rid of Jawaan Taylor, why would another team want him? Now, I know the pushback I get is that, hey, there are other teams with greater tackle needs than the Chiefs. Well, there might be, and a lot of them are not playoff teams. So why are they going to make a move for Jawaan Taylor? Not a lot of teams can afford Jawaan Taylor, so that takes out a lot of your options right there. I just don't see the fit. I don't think that there's a possibility. And again, if you're trying to move Jawaan Taylor's contract, you're not going to get a decent pick. And no one's going to trade you a necessarily a quality player for Jawaan Taylor. What you would get in return for Jawaan would, from a player standpoint, would be someone who, would be a backup. And even if it's a player with a name, it's a player who's going to have some baggage as well. Like, they are also paid a lot of money and the production's not there. So I just don't see the match, Bill. I don't see there being a really good fit between the Chiefs and anybody making a deal for Jawaan. I think if you're the Chiefs, I think you're fine with the Jawaan that you're getting. And two, you need that depth because you don't know what's going to happen. You might lose Jawaan to injury. You might lose Josh Simmons to injury. Things happen. So, I think you want to get as much out of Jawaan as you can. If something happens to Jawaan, and you got Jalen Moore for a reason. But if you're getting rid of Jawaan and then bumping up Jalen Moore to replace him, now suddenly you're really kind of stretching your depth, because then you're no knock against Wanye, but you're literally one play away from Wanye being in your starting lineup. And that was what you said last year, that your depth wasn't good enough because you had to go back to Wanye. So I say hold on to as many of these tackles as you can, because if other teams are looking for a tackle, there's a reason, because you can go through some attrition. I don't think there's any reason to I don't see any upside really to moving Jawaan. I don't think you can get any value. So I say stick with the depth. Jesus with a super chat. And Jesus, I did not make you wait forever this time. It was 1 minute. So I'm on it tonight. Jesus. What's going on with running back Elijah Mitchell? It's been one of the enigmas of this team. I still think that the most likely explanation, and even though no one's really come out and said this, but the one that makes the most logical explanation, one, the Chiefs guaranteed a lot of that contract. So there was some sunk cost into it. So there's not necessarily financially a strong motive to move on from Elijah Mitchell. Two, they haven't needed a fourth running back. You might say, hey, Chiefs do need one because they're averaging like 3.5 yards a carry. Chiefs don't feel that way. And it's not like that Elijah Mitchell is keeping a more productive player off the squad. So that's, I think, another piece of it. The final piece is that, just like some other guys coming back from injury, they still feel like that with Mitchell, he still has better football ahead of him. That, from the injury he had last year in surgery, that he's still coming back from that. He was an explosive player in his past. They feel like at some point he may cross that threshold where he is going to be a productive player again this season, and they'd like to be there when it happens. So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, there's nothing necessarily that he's hurt that is limiting his play. But again, it's just, it takes a while for guys to fully get back from surgeries. And he's dealt with a lot of injuries the last couple of years. And the Chiefs may feel that he's just close to finally breaking through. So that's at least my $2 for Jesus. I hope it was worth it. I mean, I appreciate it. Thank you, as always, for the super chat. You are always very generous with that, my friend. Let's see. I know Nick is going to be joining us here shortly. So if you are one of the many who are here for Nick, you will be very excited to know that he will be here soon. I think I left off with Nikki there. Nikki, when do you think we'll see Jeffrey Bossa? It fits into the category with the other guys like Brashard Smith, Noel Williams, all of these guys, Jalen Royals too. Slowly but surely, you're going to see a lot more of him as the season progresses. You probably won't necessarily see a ton on defense right now or even during the year. I mean, unless there's an injury. I mean, right now he is still kind of in that learning role as a rookie and kind of picking everything up. I'm going to go because I know I mean, he's at least a three-phase special teams player. He played 59 snaps, 62% of the snaps. So that's about a three-phase player for him. So he's playing a lot on special teams. He's going to continue to play a lot on special teams. Hasn't played any defensive snaps yet. And a big part of that is just still picking up the defense. I mean, if Bossa is playing, it will be because there's been some injuries. I mean, they're obviously, the Chiefs are really happy with their top three linebackers. They've got some experienced guys as their backups. So other than maybe having some very specific packages, Nikki, that he might be picking up later in the season once he kind of learns a little bit more and picks up a bit more. But again, day 3 picks, I mean, unless the Chiefs find a true massive diamond in the rough, they like to bring these players along slowly, put them in positions to succeed so that they don't have any early disappointments or anything that's going to hurt their confidence, that they can kind of build them up as they go. And you can see what happens in the second half of the season. If they've made enough strides by that point that they can contribute a little bit more by the end of the year, especially when you get into December and January and you want to rest some guys and you need some depth, that's when you're hoping that a guy like Bossa is ready to play and help you out a little bit. Let's see. Casey Harold asked for Nick, so I'm gonna hold that one back since Nick is gonna be here in just a second. I mean, John too. Everybody's just. I mean, Nick is a popular guy. I get it. It makes sense. Bumpa. Do the Chiefs view Brashard Smith as an ideal running back? Doesn't seem like they do. He had a big season as a rusher for SMU. I get he's small, but I think you should give him a chance with at least 15 carries. You know what? And Bumpa, you're lucky here because you're going to get to hear from the man himself, his thoughts. Nick,
I'm glad I had to hold my thumbs up for 90 seconds before you noticed.
Well, I was looking at Jeff Boss's stats.
Is it because you're going so fast on the?
It could also be because I'm going so fast, Nick. I mean,
Yeah.
It is.
It could be.
Yeah. I mean, it's more. This has been more turbo than usual. So.
So how many more questions is that there, Matt?
Well, I don't know by questions. I just I'm ahead of where I usually am when you come into this point. So
okay.
But I talked about Brashard Smith a couple of times now. But I'll send this to you first, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's more about how the Chiefs view Brashard Smith as a real running back. I think they view him as one. They just view him as a raw running back.
I mean, with him having only played 1 year fully as a running back, and they're going to take their time in terms of how they use him. So he'll be a part of the screen game, maybe some tosses, maybe some sweeps, maybe some pitches, something that's more off tackle than trying to run him between the tackles, because that's just not how you want to utilize him early on. You want to utilize the speed, and you do that on the perimeter. Otherwise, you take it away when you run him between the tackles.
Yeah. I think they're going to continue to use him more and more through the season, but it's just going to be another one of those things that it's probably going to be until the second half. They once again, the Chiefs love to put guys in the infamous position to succeed, Nick.
Yep.
So, all right, Chris, the Tyreek Hill injury is among the top 5 worst football injuries I've ever seen. It's likely ends his career. Is Tyreek Hill a Hall of Famer?
He's got numbers that put him in it. Whether he's first ballot or not, that'll be debatable. If he won a couple more Super Bowls with the Chiefs, then people would have associated him as being a really big part of what they needed. But Miami lacking the success that they did is unfortunately going to be used against him when a team traded all those picks for him. And yes, he helped elevate him for a little bit there, but he didn't help that offense maintain what it was. And that's not his fault, and that's not on him. But that's how voters are going to probably view that. And so they won't. Is it unfair? Yes, but that's the way people are.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of looking to see where some of his, because like all time.
Yeah, most guys in the Hall of Fame have about 12,000 receiving yards, and Tyreek's a little bit over 11,000.
Yeah, I mean, he's 41st in yards all time. He's 27th all time in receiving touchdowns, which is a little bit better. Yeah, you do get to, hey, add in a little bit of his, because, hey, he's 21st all time in punt return touchdowns. I mean, you get to add into special teams work and everything. I think, I mean, Tyreek is one of those guys, and Eric Berry was kind of like this to me a little bit too, because Eric Berry, before the Achilles injury, seemed like he was just maybe a couple of years away from having a Hall of Fame resume. And then the injury just took everything away. I feel like Tyreek's kind of might be in that same spot. If Tyreek can come back and play, he can continue to build the resume. So he's not done necessarily. I mean, I hope the guy can come back, but I just have a feeling that the Pro Football Hall of Fame committee, I just think that Tyreek, I think, will be a very controversial figure for them.
The question that you're supposed to ask yourself as a voter is, can you tell the game of the NFL without that player? If you can, then then they're probably not going to be in. But if you can't, then they're supposed to be in, and that's what the criteria is supposed to be. So it doesn't mean it always works out that way, because there's some guys in there that you can tell the story of the NFL without them. But I mean, the reality is that Tyreek changed the way defenses had to defend, and a lot of what the defenses do now across the league are because of what Tyreek did as a Kansas City Chief and what Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and them were able to collectively do together. So all that combined, I think, has a lot to do. That's where a presenter of Tyreek Hill presenting his case to the other voters, I know this sounds weird to say, but whoever is presenting has a lot more influence on what happens for that player and how that player is viewed, more so than people realize or give credit for. Because if you don't know, when Terez was alive and a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, what he had to say about Terrell Owens got Terrell Owens in the Hall of Fame. And I've had voters tell me that, like, just how passionate he was about being a kid watching Terrell Owens and what Terrell Owens meant to Terez as a kid growing up. Terez had that level of respect, so people respected what Terez had to say and how he viewed football. So when you have somebody that's a presenter like that either one is charismatic or two knows the game in a way or has the respect of the room overall, then that helps every single NFL player. So that's why every player in an NFL locker room, I'm just gonna give you a little secret here. Every Pro Football Hall of Fame voter gets a jacket. Terez made sure to wear that jacket in the Chiefs locker room and other NFL locker rooms he went into to remind them that he could influence if they got in or not.
Gosh,
and
I love
and
this.
that's not just him doing that. I'm saying that was encouraged for all voters if they wanted to, just to remind the player that, hey, that person right there, they could decide if you get to have a everlasting spot in Canton or not. Maybe show them a little respect.
I love that. And John had a little bit different version of the question. Where do you see Hill fitting into the story of the Chiefs dynasty? Is his contribution diminished the further away we get? I mean, I feel like, hey, as long as Tyreek doesn't disappear and wants it, I mean, he's like an automatic member of the Chiefs Ring of Honor and Hall of Fame. I mean, I think they'll definitely put him in.
In terms of the dynasty overall and everything, I hate to say it this way, but with each additional Super Bowl they win, especially after this, like after this upcoming year, when the trade's completely done, for the most part, and depending how many of those guys are left from that trade, like that's where the years past this is when he will, as you phrase it, have less of a role in who they are and where they're at right now than he did earlier. Obviously on when people did the first initial demise of the Kansas City Chiefs because they traded away Tyreek Hill. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna say that it won't have an impact on it, but then that's also where you have to have a person that can remind what Tyreek did for the league and for the Chiefs to get him in a position to win that first one and to go to those AFC championships and to have that game in 13 seconds and to be the threat that he was that helped Mahomes develop into the quarterback he became and all that type of stuff. So at the end of the day, it is, it's another thing that you can waste time debating, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Well, come on, Nick. Nothing we're talking about matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You just brought me down. I mean that with love. Another question I have for you. Oh, this was because of your social media discussion about J.K. Dobbins. Casey Harold wants to know any more information on the Chiefs having a chance to acquire him, other than I think Casey Harold, you're like Nick, you're just talking about the fact that they've had a couple of chances in free agency and a chance to even draft him.
They had the chance to draft him, and I know I'd heard that they were interested in potentially drafting him. I think they took Clyde that year. Mm-hmm. And then he had a solid career with the Ravens before he got hurt. And then the Chiefs, remember, they had him in for the physical last year before he ended up signing with the Chargers. And then he had free agency again this year. So, I mean, everybody wanted to educate me after I put that out there. So my mentions at one point just turned into people like, well, because he's injured all the time. Okay. Every single NFL running back gets injured. There's no NFL running back that's healthy. I don't know if you know this, but they have 11 guys trying to hit them on every single play. And that's their purpose. Their purpose is to potentially get hit by 2 to 3 different people on every play. And not just like a defensive back or a linebacker, defensive linemen too, that genuinely hurt when they fall on you. So, I mean, when people are like, yeah, every running back gets hurt. Every single running back is going to get hurt. Every single running back diminishes. Every single running back wears down, and then their speed goes away. And by the time they're in their 30s, like they're just a shell of who they were. So, like acting like, well, that's why. Man, the Chiefs go through like 3 to 4 running backs every year. If you really genuinely pay attention and continue to remember since like 2014 or 2015 with Jamal tore his ACL, like the amount of running backs that they would go through on a yearly basis, that's why they literally keep 4 almost every time, is because they normally need 4 to be able to execute the one, to be able to execute just their Cheesecake Factory menu of run calls. And no one running back is going to be able to do all of what they ask, because that's a unicorn and his name is Jamal Charles. But then on top of that, like, they're used to guys getting hurt. So like, that's just a part of being a running back. So to answer your question in long term, Harold, no, I'm not actively seeking information on it. If there's a window that opens itself some random day where I can ask that, then I will ask why they didn't. You may never find out, but I'll be at peace with it. But either way, it's not something that's keeping me up at night.
Yeah, I get that kind of fits into my thoughts too. I would like to know the thought process and what was the decision. And you know what? Maybe the decision was that the player at the end of the day didn't want to come here and wanted to go somewhere else. You never know. It happens. Jeremy, any idea what Worthy's first down celebration is? I don't know what most first down celebrations are, and I don't know if you know anything, Nick, but
I don't know what 100% of the celebrations are out there. Okay? I'm more worried about what coverage do they see, what do they do here, and how did it work out. I'm not like, oh, yeah, that's a neat dance. Like, it doesn't. I'm already past that at that point. I'm already breaking down the play after the guys got in the end zone.
See, Nick's the more substance guy. I have a little bit more of the flash, so I'll be the story behind the story. So I'll note that, Jeremy, to track that down, because I'll be honest, I have no idea either. But if someone's got the question about it, I'll definitely try and hunt down the answer.
Well, you just got it, Matt. So now you've given yourself a task for the week.
Jeremy has given me
back and deliver for Jeremy. No empty promises here, Matt.
Casey Harold, Matt, what are away game days like for you? You and the other writers drinking beer, eating pizza, and playing poker? Ha ha ha. I don't travel much anymore, Casey Harold. It's just too much of a pain in the neck and not a lot of opportunity, because we get less and less opportunities, especially on the road, because the team is basically just trying to get out of Dodge as quickly as possible. So what do? I am in the home office, sitting right where I am right now, with the game on TV. I have the game on my phone. I've got my computer monitor. I will sometimes have my laptop up too. So and watching the game, honestly, I'm monitoring it just like I do when I'm at the stadium for home games. So it's not really a whole lot of change. So no, I never watch. It's been a long time. I guess I think I watched an away game once at a bar with some other people. It was like a watch party, but I hated that. I don't like to do that. It's not really an easy and conducive environment for keeping track of everything. So it's not my jam. If I'm not at my home office, the next best place to be is the KSHB 41 studio, because watching with Nick and Mick Schaefer and anybody else, whether it's Mackenzie Nelson, Matt Foster, whomever is there, that is entertaining to watch a game. And if the Chicago Bears are playing at the same time and you get to see Kevin Holmes watching his Bears, that's even more entertaining.
Or if he's got a parlay.
Or if he's got a parlay. Yes. I wasn't going to bring it up, but yes, that's also entertaining.
It's already out there publicly. It's fine.
Jedi. I have to say, I wish I would have thought of being a reporter when I was young. It seems like a very interesting career. Not a question, Jedi, but there are probably days that you can say to yourself that you're probably glad that, because if you like to go to the movies and not get a text that somebody's been arrested or there's been a trade, then you're very fortunate.
Wait, you're at 722?
Hey, Matt, Nick posted the snap counts from the game. No Big Bob snaps. Any ideas why?
You're at 722.
We're going to be done before you know it, Nick.
No, we won't, man. And I'll be gone, and you'll still be.
Well, no, we're not going to be done if you keep laughing at me.
Oh yeah, because the 5 seconds of me laughing right now as a producer is really gonna topple
like
this thing.
15.
Anyways, to answer the question for Harold, okay. Well, I've been here 10 minutes and you got 20 more, so there you go. Let's see. In terms of look, I mean, snap counts tell you who they're comfortable with and the packages that they created based on coverages you're going to see, what defenses they're going to see, what they want to run. So the more snap counts you get, the more you were game planned for.
Yeah. I think that my best answer that I can give is that Travis doesn't come off the field a whole lot. And if Bob Tunyon's coming on the field, it would be in the place of Travis. And there's a handful of snaps and everything that with the Chiefs are going with one tight end. And if Travis isn't on the field, then they're going to put Noah Gray out there in place of him. So I think that's the biggest part of it. And especially because I don't think they're going to be putting Tunyon out there a lot in place of Noah Gray. I mean, I think Noah's going to get all of his snaps. So you're really just talking about him at this point, backing up Travis, and Travis doesn't come off the field a whole lot. So Your mileage may vary. Brian, should the Chiefs take a cornerback in the first couple of rounds next time around? I mean, I think you should probably take a corner every year, but
I'm not going to tell you where they should take him. I don't really care. Like the reality is this: you need to constantly add to your pass rush every single year. You need to add a receiver every single year, and you need to add again to your pass rush on top of that yet again. I said it because that's how important it is right now, because that's how far behind they are in their pass rush. So you need those at minimum on a regular basis. I'd like to see him get running back. I'd like to see him continue to invest at running back. And then, offensive line, they've invested pretty significantly, but they're going to get to a point where they're probably going to have to reinvest in that again at some point. But right now, pass rush and running back are really big for me next year. And yes, you like Matt said, you add a corner or somebody in the secondary every year. Like, you continue to add, so you're always being able to stay in cost control form.
There you go. Exactly. And that's going to come up with a question that we're going to go to in a second after Brother Rick with the super chat. It appears that the Chiefs are saving Tonyan and Royals for later this season. And I think there's a legitimate point there with both those guys for different reasons. Royals, I mean, obviously started the season hurt, but fits into that category of young guys that you're just going to sprinkle in slowly but surely as they pick up parts of the offense and get comfortable. You're not going to throw Jalen Royals out there if you don't have to into a bunch of snaps where he's not ready. You want to bring him along slowly. Now, if the Chiefs' argument was that, hey, they want Bob Tonyan because they know that they're going to need him late in the season because they want to be able to keep guys fresh and rotate guys out. And I mean, Big Bob is up there too. He's in his mid-30s as well. I might be aging him a little bit too much, actually, there. How old is Bob Tonyan?
Just Matt, continue on your thought process. I'll look it up.
I'm going to beat you. He is 31.
You didn't beat me even when you talked.
It was at least a tie. Jing, show me a Coke.
It was not a tie. I was a second and a half ahead of you at minimum.
You are getting a replay of that later in slow-mo.
That's fine. I'm still ahead of you either way.
So I think like I said, I think there's some legitimate points there, Rick, that they may just be saving Tonyan snaps for later in the year. I hope to think that's the case because once again, I mean, that dude had a great camp. I just don't know why you wouldn't be holding him back, but hey, the offense is rocking and rolling right now. So nobody cares, right?
No, shouldn't.
John, do you think it's more likely the Chiefs sign Trent McDuffie or Jalen Watson to a new contract this offseason?
I think Jalen to be cheaper. McDuffie's having a little rough go of it against taller receivers. He's getting picked on a little bit more than he has in past years. So I guess it depends on what you're asking because I see McDuffie as like a really good slot corner. And I think Jalen's a good outside corner. And then depending what happens to Noel Williams this year in his development, he may decide if either one of them get paid. So
yeah,
I don't think either's set in stone personally.
I mean, it will be really interesting to me because it'll be interesting to see where the market for Jalen Watson is. I mean, if he gets a deal like Christian Fulton, 2 years, $10 million, I don't know if the Chiefs can match that. I mean, that may just be something they can't afford. And I mean, they did draft Noel Williams this year. So, and like you said, Nick, you gotta, I mean, at corner, oftentimes you've just got to replace cost-effective young guys with more cost-effective young guys. I mean, that's what you did with L'Jarius Sneed. Yeah. I'm assuming Nick wants to be distanced from my comments right now. So, and I mean, and Trent, yes, I think he is getting picked on. I agree with Nick. He is getting picked on by a little bit bigger receivers this year. Man, Nick does not want to be associated with my cornerback comments at all. I was actually going to answer John's question fully, but which one I think is more likely? I think Trent McDuffie, but slightly. But that's only because I'm worried that the chances of Jalen being back are pretty low. But once again, your mileage may vary. Carol, would Carson Steele be help as a running back? What do you think, Nick?
Hold on, I'm doing some camera settings. No.
was a quick no. I mean, I like him as a potential fullback type, but I don't think the Chiefs really need it right now because they can use other guys in that role. So he's, to me, an attrition guy. Like you mentioned, Nick, you're going to go through some running backs.
He is a special teams performer and that struggles with pass blocking.
There's a pretty good point. Yeah, and not exactly a linebacker killer, though, Ryan. So I would say that would not be his
reality check, guys. I watch him get rocked routinely in pass protection one-on-one. I'm just gonna put it out there bluntly.
Sharon liked the Swiss Army knife analogy on 41 is the mic. Who is the scissors? Who's the saw? Who's the bottle opener? Or pick any blade you like.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
I think when we're talking about the Swiss Army knife, we're talking about players who are all those things.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm trying to remember specifically. This is how short-term memory I have, Nick. Were we talking about that? Because I'm sure it was your analogy that you were making on Sunday. I'm just trying to remember how it was worded.
I said as a Chiefs offense, you need to be like a Swiss Army knife because an opponent can take one or two things away. So the more you're like it and have more ways that you can beat an opponent, the better off your offense is overall.
This is true.
So you can decide whatever on a Swiss Army knife you want to make whatever it is. I don't know the order of importance because I don't use one. So I don't know, man. I really use this a lot more than the other one. So that's why I said no, thank you, and we just spent 30 seconds on
that. Well,
Matt wants me to be time efficient, so I'm trying to be time efficient. 735 Albert K, if you want to. It's a random question from Albert, as he says.
Random question. Okay, there we go, Albert. Do Ethan Driscoll and Brandon George have access to team facilities, or are they on their own for the year?
I don't know, Matt. You're the one that's been in the locker room, not me.
I thought you had something you wanted to add to it. So, no, I mean, guys who are on the injured reserve, yes, they are. Here's the weird thing. I mean, it depends on how their injuries are. Some guys might just be coming in for like meetings and therapy and everything, because otherwise there's nothing else they can do. They can't practice, especially guys who are put on the injured reserve before the season starts. I mean, now Driscoll's a little bit different because he is on non-football illness. But he is back around the team. He was not around the team there for a little while simply because he had an appendectomy and it was pretty intense. So that's why he wasn't around, but he is back now in the locker room. Guy like I said, like a guy like Brandon George, yes, in the facilities, is really there mostly for meetings and rehab, because those are the two things he can do. Can't be out on the field, anything like that. So, those guys, they have a different schedule sometimes than the regular, what you saw, active players. So sometimes your guy that's on, like one of those guys that's out for the season or is on the season-ending injury reserve that gets put on during training camp, they literally, their teammates might not see them most of the season just because they're on a completely different schedule. And like I said, unless they're coming in for like during meetings and everything for their position groups. AC 30-ish. When Fulton and Nazi return, I believe Noah Williams should say the starter. Do you agree? I mean, Noah's not really a starter right now. I mean, Jalen Watson's the starter. So, but I think as far as you're just talking about where Noah Williams' position is in the rotation, Nick, I mean, would you leave Noah Williams where he is, or would you bump Nazi ahead of him?
I'm leaving everything the way it is right now. It's not broke, so there's nothing to fix. Absolutely nothing to fix.
So Fulton and Nazi both go to the end of the line?
Absolutely nothing to fix right now. You don't mess with a thing right now while you're winning.
You don't mess with a winning streak, right?
So, but I don't think we have to worry about that right now. We're trying to create problems that don't exist.
Brian wants to know, will the Chiefs officially be back if they beat the Jaguars?
No.
Still need to see more?
I don't need to see more, but the national media is not gonna.
So you're saying they're already officially back?
I'm saying this game won't have an impact on how they're perceived.
I gotcha.
Yeah, way to assume a lot of things there, Matt.
I was just trying to clarify.
No, you weren't. You were trying to be sneaky, and I don't like it.
I'm never sneaky.
That's the guy who was just being sneaky, and it was documented. Let's see. No, like what they do against the Lions and Commanders, if Daniels is back, all that stuff, that's where national media go crazy for, but they're not. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And the reason I say that is, did you win in the playoffs? Did you make the AFC Championship? Did you win a Super Bowl? Did you do those things? None of those are currently in play right now. You're building up to that. So, like back in the day, we all used to care about power rankings, and you don't have the Chiefs high enough in this power rankings. You're not showing them this level of respect or that level of respect. That's trivial stuff anymore. You got arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You got a team that's got a championship pedigree and knows how to win. So just enjoy the ride, and then what happens in the playoffs determines what their season is or isn't. And national media, spoiler alert, plays no impact in it. They're just there like rocking chairs to help waste your time.
Well put. Karate Kid, Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons, Nick.
Haven't watched him this year.
Would you have any interest if you
still haven't watched it?
Based on your past knowledge, would you have any interest?
Don't know what he's like right now, so I can't tell you.
I would at least temporarily say Falcons 2-2 probably would be in the category of teams that still think that they're in it and probably aren't going to be giving away anybody quite yet. And you say, well, why wouldn't you trade a backup running back? Well, because like you said, Nick, you're going to go through 2 or 3. So I don't think anybody that's in the playoff hunt is going to be giving up a running back. But
all your trade questions can come back at Halloween. Until then, until kids are outside your door wearing costumes, you're going to have to wait.
Brandon, Chiefs struggled last year with cover 2 defenses. This year they are attacking with the deep ball. What has changed?
Part of it is offensive line. Offensive line gives Mahomes a certain level of time and a certain level of confidence to where he can fit it in the windows he needs to. Another part is, especially this past week, Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton, they know where they're going and how to get there. So it's a combination of those.
There you go. And I haven't looked at the numbers. I feel like the Chiefs are facing seeing a little bit less cover 2 than they've seen in the past. But
yeah, the Ravens were dumb and they let Worthy have single high far more often than they should have.
And that cracked me up. Yeah, I mean, if you folks want to know what happens sometimes in the press box, okay. This year I am sitting next to Nate Taylor because
6-minute warning.
since Nate is now sitting in Adam Teicher's old seat for ESPN, and at one point I just leaned over and said to Nate, because we used to just absolutely call it out whenever Tyreek would see single high coverage. It'd be like, oh, here it is. When the Ravens did that and showed some single high with Xavier out there, it was just like, okay, Patrick is just changing the play. Whatever it was, he just came out here, saw single high, just wave at Xavier and say, hey, X, go. Oh, dear. Let's see. Alex kind of wants to know the Brashard Smith catch and run on the sidelines reminded him of Damian Williams. How about you?
No, it didn't.
Not quite there.
Brashard's his own. He's his own player.
He's his own player.
Yeah.
I haven't really talked about that. Where is he on a scale of Damian Williams?
I don't know what your scale of Damian Williams is.
You would put him on an entirely different scale.
I'm saying I don't know your scale of Damian Williams is.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like on a scale of from 0 to Damian Williams, where Damian Williams is a 10.
I'm not good with word problems. 5 minutes.
Darren, weakest position group at the moment.
Defensive line.
That's the correct answer. Yes. I have nothing else to say either. You kind of already touched on Nikki's question there about what do you do with the corners and what do you do with Nazi when he comes back? You're not changing anything.
But we will recognize Nikki's question and give her a head nod because she asked that before we answered it.
Exactly, and I like to try and acknowledge everyone's questions. I sometimes don't acknowledge Brian's because I don't always understand
Well,
them, and
you
I
got
think
4 more minutes
I
to
always
acknowledge questions with me here.
if Joshua Williams or Elijah Mitchell was placed on the practice squad, do you believe either one would be poached? Joshua Williams would have to clear waivers first if you wanted to try and put him on the practice squad, which means any team in the league would claim him, and I think somebody would, Nick.
Yeah, somebody claim him. So there's your answer. Boom, done.
And Elijah is a vested veteran, so before the trade deadline, if you released him to try and put him on the practice squad, he just becomes a free agent. So any team in the league could sign him if he wanted to leave. So
there we go.
Are the Jaguars legit, Nick?
They have a football team. So their defense runs a bunch of zone coverage. I'm not really enamored with their defensive line or their pass rush, but they're very opportunistic at forcing turnovers against middle of the road to below middle of the road quarterbacks right now. And they've been able to kind of feast on them making dumb decisions of forcing it in windows that aren't there middle of the field. So that's on them. Offensively, Trevor Lawrence has regressed from where he was under Doug Peterson. And there's a certain way he has to win right now. And there's a lot they're going to have to add on the offense to surround him with a receiver and tight end before he will be the quarterback that people want him to be or hoping or they paid for. So Jaguars have been able to feast on a schedule of opponents that haven't been the same as what the Chiefs went against.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, the Jaguars, their defense isn't actually very good. They just create turnovers. And I don't even know if they create turnovers or the ball is just given to them because they've played some teams that appear to be just turnover trendy. But
it's not necessarily trendy. It's just they're forcing it over the middle of the field and like it keeps getting picked off.
You shouldn't do that then.
Well, tell that to Brock Purdy and tell that to Bryce Young and I can't remember the other quarterback I was watching today.
Jake Browning or I don't know. If
Browning
did it.
Yeah, Browning did it like 3 different times. Like, what are you doing, man? But well, 2-minute warning.
Nombre, safe to say that the Chiefs defense is legit. Yes,
they're slowly, steadily improving.
Man, I thought you would be more loving.
I got to give him room to work for. Okay? Can't give them everything they want right now. Look, they know how to evolve to their opponent, and they continue to do that. But there's going to be a day where like an opponent's going to get the best of them.
Pano, what's your honest opinion on how Josh Simmons is doing?
He said hi, Matt.
Well, he said hi, Matt, but I mean, I was asking you, what's your honest opinion on how Simmons is doing?
No, he's better than what they've had at left tackle for a while. Very athletic guy, and he'll continue to improve.
That's the same question on the answer on the defense. Chris, is James Franklin the most overrated coach in football?
Don't know, don't care.
Jimmy's, did you see Josh Williams almost catch Hill on that last touchdown? How does a guy with that speed not put it together? Is it lack of cover skills, not in position too often? What's the deal? Yo.
He's not able to put something together, otherwise they'd put him on the field.
I mean, the consistent answer that we get from Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt is inconsistency is the issue.
Yep. Yes.
Last
question.
No conscience would like. What would you like to see from the offense going forward, starting with this Monday?
Being able to run the ball at will for like 6 to 10 yard runs. I would love to see that. And whatever in the red zone work. And we talk about on the podcast. I want to see them effectively when they're inside the 25, be able to score touchdowns on a regular basis and show that creativity that they did this past week, and especially this week. Don't force it over the middle of the field when they're in zone, because they're in zone like almost 80% of the time. Play like cover 2, cover 3, and can't remember if it's 4, cover 6, but they play that pretty much like 80% of their defense. They just try to. They just hope that they can feast on a quarterback that will force it into where their talented linebackers can drop into coverage, or their safeties or corners, and go from there. So, and they love to run simulated pressure. Just love to run simulated pressure on third down. That's a passion project of theirs. It looks like a Rex Ryan defense out there when they do it. Because they think they're going to intimidate quarterbacks and get them to throw picks. So they do that all the time. And then they bring a corner blitz out of the either slot or nickel, depending on what they feel like. And they do that off the right side. So they're predictable in that regard too. But they've been predictable for the 4 games that I've watched, which is all 4 of the season.
Quick question for you. Wrap it all up, because you talked about being able to run the football effectively. Yep. Longest run by Tyreek Hill, Isaiah Pacheco this year is 12. Longest run by Kareem is 11. Can either one of those guys break off a run longer than 12 yards?
They did previously in their career, yes.
Can they at this point in their careers? Theoretically, I suppose yes.
If they play a team like the Jaguars run light boxes, and if everything is perfectly done blocking wise, then yeah, they could. But that's going to take Pacheco hitting the hole exactly when it needs to happen, and him being able to get up to top end speed by the time he hits the hole. So that means him having to be 7 to 8 yards back, and it being under center, and him going in a direct straight line. And for Kareem, that's just going to take him being able to build up what speed he has left in him.
A couple of choo-choo backs there.
Yep. And with that,
thank you, Nick. You're the best. Take care. Thank you, as always, to Nick, for coming in and putting up with my nonsense. A few more questions to get through, so we'll wrap it all up here, and I'll try, like I said, do you a little lightning round. There was a question that I skipped. Actually, I think it might have been 2 that I missed. So sorry. Conscience, I want to come back. Is our Thornton targets going to be this low going forward? I mean, I'll be interested to see how Tyquan gets used. I think he will continue to, see a decent amount of targets in the next couple of weeks until Rashee Rice gets back. And then there might be a little bit more of a step. But here's the thing about Tyquan is that, I mean, I think his greatest success is obviously going to be coming on deep routes. That's what he does best. He's not as polished as a route runner as Rice and Worthy are. Not even polished necessarily as much as certainly not as much as Juju. I mean, but his speed is what you can take advantage of. So you're going to put situations with Tyquan where he can run really fast in a straight line, because that's what he does really, really well. Worthy's better at changing direction. So if you've got any routes that require that, double moves, digs, comebacks, anything of that nature, Rice, Worthy, that's more of their skill set. So I think and even some of the zone beaters that Juju's going to run. There's Hollywood, I think, has a little bit more diversity of routes than Tyquan does. And I mean, I say this being one of the people who believed early on that, even going back to last year when the Chiefs brought in Tyquan, that move could work when they brought him on the practice squad, because he just seems built for this offense and filling a role. I mean, having a quarterback that can take advantage of his speed and chucking it downfield, I mean, you've got that with Mahomes. So I still think that there are big plays to be had. And, and I said it half facetiously, but I'm like, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if Tyquan had a season where he 600 yards, but only 30 catches, because he might be averaging 20 yards a play. I mean, he is going to be a big play receiver. So I would not be as concerned about how many targets that Tyquan Thornton gets. I would only be concerned about how many big plays and how many touchdowns that Tyquan gets, because that's where I think he's going to make his hay. I'm not too concerned about Tyquan getting 5-yard outs, because I don't think that's his wheelhouse. I don't think that's his best play. But him running downfield, there's not many corners in this league that can keep up with him. So he can outrun just about anybody, and he's got a quarterback that can throw it that far. So that's, like I said, I wouldn't be worried about targets. I'd just be worried about yards and touchdowns and big plays with Tyquan. Darren, why are so many people ready to criticize Butker after 55-yard plus misses? Didn't he change his mechanics for health, safety, and is still dialing in? I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. And this Darren, I did kind of hold this off after Nick left because I had a lot of a longer answer. Because I talked to Harrison about this and working on a story that I'll have up later at Chiefs Digest about this specific issue. And, because talking to the entire special teams group and talking to Dave Tobe, there's not a lot of concern about Harrison Butker at all within the Chiefs. One, they feel like that anytime that he's gone through a slump, that he's kicked his way out of it. Two, he did change his follow through again this year because he had collapsed to the knee last year. He's trying to get away from that and have a little bit more of a traditional follow through this year. Because he feels like it is more sustainable and it's not going to be as hard on his knee. He had been doing that, collapsing down to a knee last year because, he was still dealing with a little bit of tenderness in the knee and on his plant leg from the ankle injury and just some general knee issues too. So he was trying to protect that last year. This year, like I said, he's changed his follow through again, not his approach really, and nothing too much in the mechanics, just kind of once he kicks the ball. Now, what Harrison gave me was a really good example of just his explanation for kind of what's happening right now is that, when he gets a lot of maybe these 50, 55-yard plus kicks in a row, because I mean, he's had quite a few of them, and he's obviously had some hits and misses. He did miss the one from 40 that I talked to him about, and he mentioned specifically why he missed that one. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the one against the Giants. He hit the turf, and he readily admits that that turf like the one in New York, where you get the pellets that kind of come up and everything like that, that's not his best surface. Not a big fan of it. So, and on that case, he said you could tell that his foot hit the turf before it hit the ball. That's sometimes an issue when he's trying to hit some driving kicks and low kicks that he will sometimes hit the ground before he hits the ball. And if he does that, then it kind of sprays on him a little bit. That's what he feels that he needs to work on right now, that he's just kind of missing the ball a little bit, especially on some of his longer kicks. Like I said, the 40 was really out of character for him. The others look like it's been just a little bit of trying to drive the ball and having some issues there as far as, like I said, hitting the ground before he hits the ball. Even the 47-yard, I don't have any concerns about the 48-yard extra point. You as a team, if you force your kicker to try and kick a 48-yard kick for 1 point, you kind of deserve it, not make it. So next time, Kareem, don't get a 15-yard penalty that forces your guy to kick a 48-yard 1 point kick. That would be my take on it. But yeah, that's at least my take on it and everything like that. And like I said, I'll have a little bit more in the story directly from Harrison, kind of explaining it. I get it. Everybody wants their kicker, especially this day and age, to be 90%, and that's what Harrison has been in his career. He's been that guy. So you don't expect Harrison to go through these little slumps, but historically in his career, he has done that. And the Chiefs and Harrison himself, I mean, they believe he's going to kick his way through it because he's done it before too. So I'm not too concerned about Harrison yet. Just give him a chance. I mean, this guy has always come through for you, and I think it's going to happen again. Albert, Kevin Knowles only has one elevation remaining, correct? What's the plan with him this season? My understanding is that I believe he is now out of elevations. The only way that he can be elevated for another game is if they put him on the 53. So there's always a possibility they could put him on the 53. That's one case. There's the possibility, you can reset that by placing him on waivers and re-signing him, releasing him. I said waivers. You could terminate his practice squad contract, sign him to a new practice squad contract, and that would reset his practice squad elevations. Now, it would obviously allow another team with the potential to sign him onto their practice squad. Remember, you can't sign a player from a practice squad to a practice squad. You can only sign a player from a practice squad to the 53. So if like another team wanted to come by and get Kevin Knowles, they could only sign him to their active roster. If you terminated his contract, though, anybody could come along and sign him to their practice squad. So you always have the chance that you could lose him doing that route just to reset his practice squad elevations. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm trying to find out, kind of what their thought process with Kevin Knowles. If they just they needed him to kind of be that guy for them while Nazi was out, and then once Nazi was back, then they were going to have him. They have Nazi kind of fill that role going forward. Would that be like we talked about earlier? You waive Josh Williams with the idea of trying to get him onto the practice squad, or is he a trade candidate that you try and get a pick for, and then that frees up a spot for Nazi? And like I said, Kevin Knowles then had kind of been your Nazi Johnson for 3 games, and now you've kind of set that up. We'll see. I mean, I'm not sure what entirely the plan is for Kevin Knowles. I'm going to try and find out. I know the Chiefs like him, so if another team comes calling about adding Kevin Knowles to their 53, I think the Chiefs might need to find a place for him. So it's one of the things that you're going to have to look at there. And if this is a guy that the Chiefs like, again, you're talking about, hey, Traverse Ward was an undrafted free agent. You can find these guys, these inexpensive young guys to fill out your roster. And if you can find them to be productive players, so if, Kevin Knowles can going forward be a number 3, number 4 corner for you, I mean, that's exactly what you have to do when you're the Chiefs and you got a lot of superstars. You need to be able to hit on guys like that. And let's see. Pete, does this Tyreek Hill injury make the Chiefs reevaluate taking small wide receiver after small wide receiver? No. I mean, the Chiefs, they're not afraid of small wide receivers. They're afraid of small wide receivers that aren't tough. And Tyreek is tough. Xavier Worthy is tough. Hollywood, I mean, I think he's tough. Hollywood just had some bad breaks with injuries, but I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Tyreek and Xavier Worthy are both tough kids and tough players, and Xavier in particular. I mean, that was the guy that. One of the big reasons why the Chiefs were willing to take him, despite the fact that he was a lighter size guy and a thinner frame, was that the coaches in Texas would tell you that he was the toughest guy on the team. He played last season played his last season at Texas with a broken hand, so half of it. So that tells you a lot right there. Let's see, Brian. Well, remember FAU's on injured reserve, so you won't be seeing FAU this year. Jedi, want to see what really happens to running backs after the NFL? Look up Earl Campbell's career, and after the NFL, it's sad. Oh, there's a lot of players like that from back in the day, Jedi, that it's their mobility is limited, and Earl is he left it all on the field. There is no doubt about that. Pano, what play schemes would you guys draw up when Rashee Rice returns? He and Xavier Hollywood at the same time. Oh, I gosh, wish I'd gotten to this before Nick left, Pano, because that's his passion project right now. Is and it could be substitute Hollywood for Taekwon too. I mean, that's another option that you have. You got some depth there, but yeah, you put Rice, Worthy, and Hollywood all on the same side of the field together at the same time, you're going to terrorize some secondaries. I mean, there's just so little that you can do about that. So what would we draw up? I don't know what Nick would draw up. I mean, I would certainly put together some route combinations there that would just kind of put your secondary in a blender, and put your corners in a blender. If you can get them looking one way and you send your guy the other, you got the inside guy going to the outside. There's a few different things that you can do. There's no doubt, but keeping up with that kind of size and strength, especially, with Rashee, kind of being the player that he is, and then having the speed that Xavier and Hollywood have, or the speed, and honestly, the size of Tyquan. Tyquan is big and fast. He is tall and fast. So I think that's a really intriguing one too, because you could set those three guys up, and we saw it at training camp. I mean, you do that, and you have Travis Kelce on the field at the same time too. I mean, you're going to create mismatches. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to get one of those guys a matchup that the defense is not ready for, because they're not going to have any idea where you're going to hit them. And I know Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and all those guys are having a lot of fun trying to figure out and have plenty of things dialed up for what they can do with those three guys in the field. But I tell you what, you put those guys trips off to one side, it's going to be a thing to watch. It's going to be fun. Chris, are you jacked for Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl? I mean, I'm old, so this is going to be like sad for me, because it's like the first, not really the first, because I was probably a little too old for J-Lo and Christina Aguilera, although I like both of them, so that's not a problem. I could not tell you. I mean, I know who Bad Bunny is. I know the thing. I mean, I know Bad Bunny was in Happy Gilmore too. I know he's an actor, and there's a lot going on, and very popular performer. I'm just too old to be in the demo. So I have no strong opinions on Bad Bunny one way or the other. Got nothing against him, nothing for him. So sure, he's a great performer and a great person, but I've not familiar with his work. So that just tells you I'm outside the demo, Chris. Albert, what contract would Nick offer Jalen Watson? Here, this comes out after I let Nick go. Albert, hey, hit Nick up in the comments, because Nick always visits our comments. So you fire that away, and you mention Nick's name, he will give you an answer. That's a really good question, and one I haven't really thought about, because again, I mean, I think that I feel like the Chiefs signed Christian Fulton to be kind of their bridge a little bit while they drafted some young corners. You know, they got Noah Williams now, so that's a great one. But they knew that kind of going into 2026 that they were kind of needed to be a bridge. You know, that I think they were preparing for the possibility that, I mean, if you can't get something done with Trent McDuffie and you're walking away from Trent McDuffie and making a trade, then that's a possibility, and that's why maybe you need a Christian Fulton. My watch is talking to me. I don't know why it does that from time to time. Somebody smarter than my watch is going to have to explain that one to me. But I don't, because I haven't really put a lot of thought into it as far as, what the Chiefs, because I've kind of been of the philosophy that I think the Chiefs may let Jalen test the market and get what he gets. And if he keeps playing the way he has so far this year, which has been more consistent than in years past, Jalen's going to get a pretty good contract. So, and I know he's paying attention to the corners around the league that are getting paid. And I mean, hey, I'm not going to begrudge any player for trying to get the most that they possibly can, because that's what you should do. And there's no reason why, if you're Jalen Watson, you should stick around Kansas City for less money if somebody's willing to pay you more when you've got a couple of Super Bowl rings. So I wouldn't begrudge him at all. I'm kind of the philosophy, honestly, Albert, that I don't know that the Chiefs will offer Jalen Watson a contract unless it's a situation where they let him test the market. The market isn't what he's seeing, what he and his agent hoped that it would. They come back, and it's. I'm reading Uncle Charlie's question, and it's cracking me up. So that's my at least my philosophy on it so far. I'm just not sure that the Chiefs are going to offer him a contract. I kind of hope that's not the case, because I mean, Jalen's been fun to cover, and I think he's having a really good this year, and he's a good teammate. But once again, I mean, I also, because he's been a good dude and a good teammate, I think you want the best for him and the most for him. So if he gets a big contract in the offseason, more power to him. Uncle Charlie, after I broke down the film on Chiefs Digest Live Q&A, thoughts on modifying the lightning round to a 10-10-10 format. 10 questions regarding the offense, 10 regarding the defense, and 10 miscellaneous special teams, high V, etc. 1 hour max. That's actually a brilliant format, Charlie. And and honestly, lightning round will work if I just commit to it. But one of the things I have to commit to it is I think I'm going to have to put a clock on myself. I'd put no clock on Nick too, but I'm not saying that out loud. I got to do something, Charlie, because I'm letting it get out of control. KC Chiefs 12. Will Rashee Smith be the starting running back by the end of the season? I think you could certainly set odds on it. I mean, they'd be pretty long odds right now that could get shorter as the year goes by. I mean, like right now, I might give you 20-1 because I think that it's more likely than not that he won't be the running back by the end of the season. But there's still a chance that it can happen. So 20-1, 5% chance. It's probably a little low. I mean, maybe I should go a little bit lower on the odds because if I'm the house, I don't want to take a beating on that. But so maybe it needs to be more like 10-1. But it's not like a guarantee. But I think there's a chance. I mean, especially if you get a rash of injuries, that might end up being the case, and maybe he that does get in there. But I mean, right now he's your number 3 guy. So what's the most likely path for Rashee Smith to become the starting running back by the end of the season? Well, something happens to 2 guys in front of him. Although, really, I think if you're Rashee Smith, the only one that you would have to jump or would get hurt would be Pacheco. I mean, for a period of time, I think that the Chiefs might be willing to ride with Kareem as the starting running back, but Rashee would be the guy that kind of steps in and plays a little bit more. So maybe it's Kareem starts, but Rashee gets more touches. But as I guess Nick would say, it's nothing. Not worried about it right now because it seems like a long way off, and it still might not even happen. So. Mitchell, Menahue stinks. Can nobody else see this? Why not more Gelati? I mean, you're getting more Gelati. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm trying to remember what the snap counts were this week. Let me pull it up real quick, and I'm not doing it real quick at all. I need Nick in here to pull it up for me and remind me because, well, Nick would know it on top of his head. But obviously Gelati, I mean, Gelati started this week, so that was a step in the right direction. And I don't know if I'm not going to go as strong as to say that Menahue sucks. So I'm not going to grant the premise of the question, even though I just repeated the question. But his numbers, especially his speed and advanced metrics, that will tell you just like as quickly as he gets off the ball, those kind of things aren't as positive as you would like for them to be. If you're the Chiefs, you're hoping that he'd bounce back a little bit more at this point. But remember, Gelati, I think played 8-9 snaps in the season opener. He's up to 26 that he played on Sunday and started the game. Menahue played 31. I think that's going to continue trending in that direction, especially with Mike Dana coming back. Dana comes back. Gelati's snaps, I don't think are going down. May a little bit, but I still think he's going to play a lot of snaps. Menahue is going to be playing fewer snaps. I mean, the likelihood is that, Menahue is 3rd or 4th in the rotation and probably 4th more likely than not. I mean, you're going to probably manage the snaps of all 3 of those guys. Karlaftis is going to get as many snaps as you can get him. The other guys are going to kind of rotate a little bit, and specific situations are going to impact that too. But no, I mean, right now, Gelati is the stronger performer. So I think you're going to see more Gelati. And like I said, Dana should be back. I would expect that he'll be back this week, more than likely. And that's going to affect Menahue's playing time as well. Jackson, currently Worthy is on pace for 100 yards or 1,100 yards. Do you think he gets there? Entirely possible. I mean, and I think you think of because I'm trying to do the math in my head. I guess there are enough games now. Yeah, that I guess is it a pause? Is that where it would be? Or are you thinking about just as I'm sorry, I'm trying to, like I said, I'm doing the math in my head and I'm like, wait a minute, I think he's got 80 yards, so it's only like 20 yards a game. But I understand, you're saying if he plays, I think 80 some odd yards a game for the rest of the season with 13 more games to go, I'm catching up now. That'd be, I guess that would be the numbers. And now that I do the math in my head, I'm finally catching up with you, Jackson. Yes. Possibly. I mean, I thought before the season there was a distinct chance that Worthy gets 1,000 yards. And that was with the idea that I think Rashee Rice is going to get 1,000 yards as well. So now which one's more likely? Well, Worthy's got a head start. He's going to play. He will likely, if they're both healthy the rest of the season, he's still going to play more games. So he's got a better chance. But I would take that right now, Jackson. Yes, I would bet that I think Worthy is going to hit 1,000 yards this season if he stays healthy. I mean, if he misses a few games, obviously not going to work out. But now Nick knows that he can make comments, and that I like get so focused on the questions and I don't scan forward that he can make comments about that. I'm never allowed to use the word lightning round again. And Nick, I read it at 8:56, just so you know. Ha ha ha. Rick, do you see any trades before the deadline? I'm guessing so, because that just seems to be the way of the NFL these days. Everybody that's in contention is going to be making deals to try and improve their team. And the Chiefs, obviously, I think the defensive line, defensive tackle, defensive end, running back, both possibilities of trying to upgrade. Both. All of those positions are potential upgrade possibilities. So I mean, I think it's more likely than not that the Chiefs do make a trade. I do wonder if last year's experiences, because I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins was a bad deal, but I think that I've always felt that, especially on the offensive side, that mid-season additions to try and pick up Andy Reid's offense, you're just not going to get a huge return on your investment. The Chiefs brought in a left tackle last year, didn't get a return on the investment. Brought in, on the defensive side, they brought in Joshua Uche, didn't get a return on the investment. You could probably argue that with DeAndre Hopkins, that you didn't get a return on the investment there. And obviously, D-Hop kind of shows you that there's a difference between coming in as a mid-season addition and having an entire offseason to pick up an offense. I mean, so I wonder if there is a little bit of the Chiefs that might be, there's some positions that are just too difficult. Now, saying that said, there's a few positions that, I think you can add mid-season and it's not as impactful. Defensive tackle plays a little bit on an island. Corners play a little bit on an island. So there's a couple of spots that I think you could upgrade, and there's not as much of a learning curve. Maybe interior lines also kind of the same way, because the Chiefs have at least had some limited success there with bringing in some interior linemen. Running back, I think that's a really hard one. I mean, as much as I think that the Chiefs need some speed in the backfield, I just don't know if that player is out there. The Chiefs have brought in running backs late in the season or mid-season before, but they have been kind of guys that are past their prime. And I don't think that's what the Chiefs need. I think they need an influx of speed and youth at that spot. So if you're going to do that, then you're talking about going out and getting somebody who's more likely 24, 25, in the third or fourth year of the rookie contract. In which case, like we talked about earlier, that's going to cost you a little bit. But I would still even be a little bit nervous about that, because again, adding a piece in the offense and an Andy Reid offense midseason, not easy to pick up. It has never been easy. And there's just not a lot of, DeAndre Hopkins, once again, is pretty much your most successful statistical mid-season addition that the Chiefs offense has ever had under Andy Reid, and one of the best of Andy Reid's entire career on the offensive side. And that's excluding, like I said, maybe some offensive line guys, because, hey, they had Steven Wisniewski, who came in and obviously played really well for them. And when they had some injuries, offensive line's a little bit different. And Wisniewski played a lot for Andy, so that was a little bit different as well. But I think the Chiefs, I think they learned a little bit last year with Uche coming in. I don't think that they would. I think they're going to be really particular and really specific, that if they go out and try and get a defensive end to bring in, that it's going to be a very specific type of player, because I don't think they want to go through kind of what they did with Uche last year. Brian, do the Chiefs trade for a running back? I think they want to, but again, that's got to be the right player, and I'm just not sure that the match is going to be there, but I think they're going to shop for one. Albert, any word if Veach is shopping around Wanye, or if any teams are calling about him? I wouldn't be surprised either way. Have not heard that the Chiefs are shopping Wanye. Have not heard that teams are calling about him. Once again, it's early, and again, there's not going to be a lot of teams that are calling a team like the Chiefs and asking, "Hey, are you going to be willing to trade a guy?" There might be some interest, but it's more than likely going to be the other way around. It would be the Chiefs shopping a player like Wanye or Josh Williams, whatever the case may be. But I mean, with the Chiefs' history at tackle and the injury history, I don't know if you're just letting anybody go, because you don't have any depth on the practice squad by and large behind Wanye. So behind Jalen Warren, Wanye, I mean, those are pretty much your 4 tackles you're going with. If you get some injuries, get a couple of injuries, I mean, you're going to have to go find somebody, because I'm not sure that Ethan Driscoll is what his situation is going to be, when he's going to be healthy to come back. And even then, very inexperienced. So you've got some questions there. But it's certainly a possibility, but I would probably be trying to hold on to offensive line and tackle depth no matter what, because Chiefs have been down that road before with injuries, and they don't want to get too far down that road and not have any depth at that spot, because they've been there before. I think Brian, I think you got your question under a second account. Great. No problem with that. I just was like, I think Brian asked that question from Twitter and YouTube. That was a new one. I'm very impressed. Des, think that the Chiefs offer Leo. I mean, I think they'd like to keep Leo. I think that might also end up being one of those situations where they let Leo test free agency, see what he gets, and if they can match whatever he gets, try and match it and bring him back. That's what I'm guessing. I would think. I could be wrong, but that's kind of the impression I get with that. Man, Jesus, did I miss your second question? Oh my gosh. You're right, I did. Dang. I did miss your second one. Hey, Susan, here I was so proud of catching your first one so quickly, and then I missed your second one. Did you see a big change in the offense scheme-wise? And I think you're talking about the Ravens game. I don't know if it's big, subtle, yes, because obviously there were some things in there for specifically for Xavier Worthy that weren't in there before. But they also, I mean, again, they're trying to put more screenplays back into the game plan. I had this conversation earlier today with Soren Petro over at Sports Radio 810, and talking about the fact that we're still seeing the short passing game being an extension of the run game. That's what Andy Reid does. So a little bit of, the griping and maybe moaning and complaining that we're doing about the Chiefs run game not being super productive. They're still doing some of those elements that, like I said, are part of Andy Reid's run game. I mean, I mentioned, taking out Xavier Worthy's 38 yards rushing, from the running back total, because he's not really a running back. But those jet sweeps are part of Andy Reid's run package. So it's part of the run game. Those jet sweeps are crucial to slowing down the pass rush, and that's another aspect of the run game. It's, to try and keep the defense honest. That's what those plays do. Like I said, they're running more screens than they have been. And that's a change from the first couple of weeks of the season, when it seemed like, they really weren't trying to run any screens at all. They're trying to filter in a little bit more. And my point when I made with Soren was that, I mean, last year, the Chiefs short passing game, it wasn't an extension of the run game. It was the offense. Its purpose was to move the football. I mean, the short passing game wasn't just to set things up for the deep passing game. It was in the entire offense. So now the short passing game is going back to what it's supposed to be, which is, it's an extension of the run game for Andy Reid. And being able to do that now and have it be just a setup piece rather than the entirety of the offense is a big deal. So I think that's a significant change, but I felt like 75% of the changes in the offense were simply going back to the things that Xavier Worthy can do and putting them back into the offense. There's a few things that I think that they're getting more comfortable with, as far as just the getting more comfortable with the offensive line, figuring some things out there. Both the last couple of weeks, Matt Nagy and Andy Heck kind of alluded to the fact that, when trying to figure out their identity, they still just don't know offensively some of the things that they do well and what they do best. They're still trying to figure that out. I think they got closer to that the last couple of weeks against the Giants and especially against the Ravens. I think they're getting closer to figuring all of that out, and getting Xavier Worthy and getting Rice back is going to be a big part of that too. So, those are what I think were the changes. And so, the big changes on the scheme to me, Jesus, I think we saw was that one big part of it was certainly just getting back to the things and adding into the things that Xavier does well. But then also just, putting in some things that they feel like that they can now because they're getting more comfortable with the offensive line and what it does. So my apologies for missing that second question, Jesus. I loaded up my flagged area and I just completely missed it. I am so sorry. I've done that to you way too many times and you still tolerate me, Jesus. So I greatly appreciate you putting up, once again, just like Nick, putting up with my nonsense. Brian, could Gelati play inside on passing downs? Met the young man and he is built. I think it's a really good question. And I think that's something that they would be more comfortable with down the road as far as, introducing that into his game and his skill set. So I think it's not something that I think they would push a young guy to do right now, but down the road, I think they would introduce that to him because you're right. I mean, he has got good size, so I think it's something that he could do. But that's something that they're going to mostly do on third down. So it's going to be when they are kicking Chris Jones outside, they're putting maybe 3 or 4 edge rushers on the field. I think right now they would prefer more experienced guys to be in that role rather than forcing a rookie. But down the road, is Gelati going to be one of those guys? Yeah, absolutely. I think he can be one of those guys. Michael, I completely understand the nature of the question, and I understand probably where it's coming from, but I'll be honest, things of this nature, at least when media is in, never come up. And I have not had a single player bring up this topic with me. Honestly, very rarely does politics come up in the locker room. It may come up with the players occasionally, but I have not had any players, discuss it with me or approach me or have any questions about it. So pretty much all I can say on that one. I mean, that's not me saying anything between the lines. That's literally, the topic hasn't been discussed. Maybe players are discussing amongst themselves, but there hasn't been any feedback or anything that I've heard. Michael, and I think this might be it. I think I drove everybody out. So I think about 9 o'clock or about the time that I missed Pano's last question, everybody left. So, no, I just refreshed it and a bunch more questions popped up. No, I didn't. So I don't know what's going on. I can't keep track. I think the live Q&A is a little bit like my mom said, after nothing good happens after midnight, nothing good happens in the Q&A after 9 o'clock. So, but Michael, you're going to get the last question tonight. With the Eagles adding a wrinkle to their tush push, why do the Chiefs not try and copy some of that, especially with the wrinkles Andy could dream up? I mean, it is an interesting question about, especially when the Chiefs had Blake Bell and they would use him on some quarterback sneaks, why they didn't maybe pick up that rank a little bit. And, and honestly, I think, a big part of it is just that there are concerns around the league and with some teams that even though the Eagles have not had injury issues with it that we know of, that they feel like teams are worried that they could be the one, especially if you're not doing it right, that it can cause some problems. I mean, the Chiefs are never going to try and run a tush push type of play with Patrick Mahomes on the field. They just simply remove him from the element if they ever tried to do that. And honestly, I mean, I'm surprised that some teams, even the Eagles, don't do that. That the Eagles just don't occasionally line up to run the tush push and then be like, yoink, and we're going over here instead. But and we'll see. I mean, I'll be interested to see once again. I mean, now that if the NFL truly tries to crack down a little bit on the tush push, if its effectiveness is going to be coming to an end, because I think at least the way that the Eagles are running it right now, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I mean, I think the way that they're running it right now, they're kind of over the edge of the legality of it. And if they can't run it pushing the edge, then they probably won't be able to be as successful with it as they have been. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight and putting up with my occasional brain fog of just absolutely, totally losing my mind. Thank you for putting up with me until running my 1 hour long Q&A until 9:11. Thank you to Nick, as always, for popping in and, as I say, putting up with my shenanigans. He is such a great sport and a good friend, and appreciate him always having some of his personal time to spend with us on Tuesday. I'm still going to plan on doing a Q&A on Thursday this week. There should not be any issues that pop up, but so hopefully we will see you on Thursday if you are so interested. And other than that, obviously, Chiefs will be delayed one day this week. They don't start up really until Thursday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be the availability this week. So Saturday won't be a lot of fun since college football, at least my Missouri Tigers on a bye week, so I don't have to worry about that. But we'll have Chiefs availability on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, dark on Sunday when the rest of the league plays, then Monday night at Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. And after that, early Tuesday morning, but in your feed before you go to work on Tuesday morning, we will have 41 is the mic in your streams. Everybody, thank you very much. Appreciate, hey, Luttrell, Casey Harold, everybody who stuck here until the very end. Thank you so much. Have a great week.